Now WATE has teamed up with ClearPoint Credit Counseling to help answer questions about how you can get out of debt.
Our 6 on Your Side consumer reporter Don Dare is in West Knoxville right now, where counselors are available to take your calls. Don.
You know, the average credit card debt in America today, according to the latest records, is just over $7,000. We talk with a youth counselor who accumulated more than $60,000 in debt until he went through a debt management plan, and he has a remarkable story to tell. Adam Jones, at his office with his youngest daughter, Braylon, finally has a huge weight lifted from his shoulders: debt. Burdened with debt that started in college, this 34-year-old youth pastor and father of 2 daughters is at last debt-free. His path towards spending beyond his means started as a freshman at Lee University in Cleveland, Tennessee, where he says credit cards were given out like candy.
Everybody got the same credit card offer, and so all of a sudden you start going out to eat, you start doing buying new shoes, buying new clothes, and it's a newfound freedom until that first statement comes in. You realize, oh, I don't have a job up here.
After college and in Georgia, where he met and married Jill, the couple at first tried to watch their spending, but loans weighed them down.
We had the student loans, and then what was not absorbed by the student loans, we added on credit card debt. And we had good interest rates at that time. You know, we would transfer those balances, 0%, just keep transferring. And then when the recession hit, you know, all of a sudden those 0% transfer balances went away. There were times where we sit there at the end of the month saying, where's the money going to come from?
Their debt amounted to $62,000, and they paid minimum payments on more than half a dozen credit cards. At what point did you decide we've got to do something?
When there was a strain on the marriage.
Your credit score is depending on a lot of factors.
It was when Adam and his wife turned to someone like Billy Davis, a credit counselor with ClearPoint, that they started to claw their way out of debt.
If you have an interest rate of 25, 27, 29%, which a lot of people do, then very little money is going to go to your principal, and that's why it takes so long to pay this debt off.
At ClearPoint, the Jones family was put on a debt management plan. It's a systematic way to pay down your outstanding debt through monthly deposits with this nonprofit credit counseling agency.
First thing I tell my clients is to keep a budget.
The budget consists of money coming in, your income, and money going out, expenses for things like rent, student or car loans, groceries, utilities, buying gas for the car, clothing for the kids, snacks for yourself. Through prearranged agreements with credit card companies, ClearPoint is able to negotiate lower interest rates for serious-minded people determined to stick to their debt management plan.
What we do is we take their unsecured debts, put it into one plan. They would make one payment to us once a month. We would disperse the funds out to the creditors for them.
And now you get this.
I got this letter in October.
For Adam and his wife, they did it. They're debt-free. They completed their 5-year debt management plan in 4.5 years.
No more sleepless nights, no more stress-filled days, arguments in the marriage. You know, we're free, and it's taken a lot of weight off of our shoulders.
Well, there are a staggering number of credit cards, of course, held by people all across America. In fact, industry records show nearly 610 million are in circulation right now. And some companies offer their customers what are called payment protection plans. But if you look really closely at that fine print, you cannot buy that insurance in Tennessee. Well, 6 on Your Side consumer investigator Don Dare talks with a widow from Walland.
Norman Davis says she had a wonderful life with her late husband, Chester. They were married for 59 years. The retired Air Force NCO served in Vietnam in the early 1960s, and by the time he retired and returned home to East Tennessee, he and his family had lived around the world.
He took good care of me.
Mrs. Davis remembers her husband taking out a Discover card 4 years ago and paying extra for the card's payment protection plan as outlined in this brochure sent to Chester.
Because, see, that would have been my security, and we've always done that. This is what I paid for the protection plan in 2009.
By her family's calculation, Chester never missed paying the protection plan's monthly fee. Mrs. Davis still has all the receipts from the payments. And when he died in April, nearly $3,200 had been paid into the plan.
Well, then after he passed away, then they told me, oh, he don't have no death benefits.
What was your understanding of the payment protection plan?
That if something happened to him, that it would, if we owed anything on it, it would be paid off.
All this time that he's paying, Chester believes that he qualifies for this payment protection plan?
Yes.
But Mrs. Davis says Chester did not qualify for the plan, nor does anyone in Tennessee. We pulled up this Discover Card's website. The payment protection plan is not available in Tennessee, several other states, as well as several American territories. This is a letter written in July of 2012. In this letter sent 2 years ago, Mr. Davis was informed the terms of his payment protection plan were being upgraded.
To me, they sold it under false pretense. Here all this 5 years now I've paid.
We checked with the state's Department of Insurance. Since the mid-1980s, Tennessee has taken the position that debt cancellation contracts are the same as insurance contracts, and laws are written banning such plans in the volunteer state.
They need to inform the people that this is not valid.
We reached out to Discover Card, asking how Mr. Davis was charged this fee when he didn't qualify for the benefit. We also asked whether Mrs. Davis would be reimbursed for the protection plan charges. A week after our inquiries, Norma said an executive from Discover Card called her. To her surprise, the company settled the dispute by paying off the entire amount owed. We returned the other day.
He said, "I've got good news for you." And I said, "You do?" And he said, "The debt's paid in full." I said, "We got a good God." That's what I told him.
Now, Mrs. Davis says the executive from Discover Card who talked with her on the phone apologized that her late husband had not been informed about Tennessee's payment protection plan policy. When we checked with the state, there have been 2 different Attorney General opinions over this issue. And in both cases, the Attorney General said debt cancellation agreements are not allowed in Tennessee with any credit card company. The threat of your credit and debit card information being stolen has made headline news for the past 5 months. Most people are aware of the hacking breaches since millions of people were affected last December. So when a call came a few weeks ago to Charlotte's home, she asked that we not use her last name. She was alarmed by the information. Charlotte considers herself pretty alert from having the wool pulled over her eyes. But what happened to her keen sense of awareness about being fooled caught her by surprise. When a call came recently from an earnest-sounding man who said someone was trying to open a credit card in her name.
He said, "This is an emergency. Please do not hang up. I'm calling from the credit card monitoring service in Atlanta, Georgia. Please get a pen and paper and write down everything I say."
An emergency from the credit card monitoring service hurt her ears. So she started taking notes from a guy named Chad Goodall, who gave his badge and phone number too.
Yes, sir.
And what did he say was going on?
He said my credit cards were all being breached.
Someone was trying to open a Visa card in her name, he said, and already it started to charge $275 using her name and address.
He told me he was going to close that account immediately for me, that he was removing the application, and he proceeded to do several things, and then he come back and he gave me a verification number that he had closed the account.
Confident in his ability to help her, Charlotte jotted down the verification numbers. But Chad wasn't through. He apparently wanted to steal real information.
Then he told me they were breaching my MasterCard and that we needed to verify the number. And he gave me the first 4 numbers of my MasterCard. And he said, now we need to proceed with the rest of the numbers. And I very foolishly gave him the rest of my numbers.
You did what?
I gave him the numbers.
Yes, all MasterCards start with 5.
How about Visa?
Visa starts with 4.
Deborah Smith, Executive Vice President with Knoxville's Home Federal Bank, says if hackers know what card you have, they may also know where you bank. And numbers 2 through 6 on credit cards are the bank identification numbers.
We all fear that our cards have been compromised. And banks do have calling services. All banks monitor cards for strange transactions, unusual transactions, out of the ordinary transactions.
But you would identify yourself as the name of the bank?
Certainly.
Not just a credit card monitoring service?
No.
Realizing her mistake, Charlotte took action. You called MasterCard immediately?
Yes, sir.
And they told you what?
They told me I had been breached.
$800 had been charged to her account. Because she called MasterCard quickly, the bad transactions were canceled. And you closed your MasterCard account?
Yes, sir.
She did the right thing. That's the most important thing she could have done.
We called the number that Chad Goodall had given to Charlotte.
The number you dialed has been changed, disconnected, or is no longer in service.
It's been a lesson learned.
Don't give anybody any kind of a number on the phone.
Period.
Period.